Well, you guys were all over the first one, so let's take a look at the top 5 terrifying mysteries solved by the internet, part 2. Number 5 on this list is the tattoo artist. In today's world, you don't always need to be a cop or investigator to solve crimes. With the internet and the fact that literally everything that we do is documented at all times, people are more than capable of solving a crime from the comfort of their own home. That's kind of what went down in this case. Ranker writes, tattoo artist and 19th century antiques collector Greg May was murdered, and it took a year for police and federal investigators to prove that he was dead. All they knew was that his former roommate had stolen his $70,000 collection. It wasn't until they were contacted by Ellen Leach, an e-detective who was trying to solve what she thought was a different murder with information about a severed head found in a bucket full of concrete. Once they got contacted by her, they were able to charge the ex-roommate with murder. So first off, this crime is absolutely horrifying. It's honestly the nature of this crime which has rocketed this internet case onto this list. Like, if I actually start to try and imagine dying by a chainsaw, it just kind of makes me feel ill inside. And what's even more sick about this is that if it wasn't because of the internet, the killer would have got away with it. Ellen Leach, however, is a pro at doing what I suggested earlier, solving crimes from the comfort of her own home. She literally is an internet detective and has dedicated herself to the craft. From my findings, it seems that Ellen Leach has been instrumental in not only this case, but in solving 7 other cases around the United States. That is a sizable amount of influence that Ellen's got, and a lot of families can thank her for doing what she does. I personally can't even imagine how taxing it must be sitting at your desk literally the entire day trying to find a chainsaw killer. Definitely not the sort of profession that I could do, but really happy that we've got people like Ellen out here that can. Number 4 on this list is the Hitman. Alright, so this case is honestly less terrifying and more just stupid if you ask me. If you're a hitman, then you have to be extremely discreet. After all, you're literally selling your services to a buyer who will want you to take the life of another human being. This obviously isn't even remotely close to being legal or morally right, and secrecy has got to be the name of the game. That's why it was absolutely ridiculous when a guy, actually unnamed, made a Facebook account to advertise his skills as a contract killer. He was smart enough to use a fake name, so he named this Facebook account Anthrax, but clearly this level of intelligence didn't translate to a visual medium. My dude literally used his own face in the photos of the profile. Well, obviously it didn't take very long before the police got wind of this and arrested this guy. They were able to do so before he was contracted to kill anyone, and honestly never even found out if he was a real contract killer or just a loser in a basement trying to mess with people. Now, what makes this story scary though is that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This was one dumb guy who posted stuff on Facebook, and the Facebook community responded very quickly and took him down. But there are way more intelligent people than this guy in the world who are real and trained contract killers using the internet. Facebook, Craigslist, eBay, they've all seen people pose as other people and use their platform as a space for evil. These are also only the platforms that we're all familiar with. I've never seen it for myself personally, but apparently the dark web has tons of sites where you can literally find reputable hitmen at the click of a button. The internet can occasionally be great and solve some crimes, but don't get it twisted, guys. The internet can also host those same crimes as well. Number 3 on this list is the Grateful Doe Hitchhiker. This is one of the most famous internet cases of all time. What Culture says, in 1995, 21-year-old student Michael Hager picked up a 19-year-old hitchhiker traveling from a Grateful Dead concert. The two were making their way to their respective destinations, Hager to his mother's house in South Carolina, when something caused the Volkswagen transporting the men to crash into a tree. Both died. As Hager didn't know the boy who was riding with him, his family didn't know either. When they came to identify Hager's remains, none could identify the hitchhiker, and nobody came out to report him missing. Since his real identity was unknown, he was given the name Grateful Doe because of the Grateful Dead concert. There were reconstructions made of Grateful Doe's face and a number of small distinctive tattoos that people could work to identify. However, for many years there was no luck until Australian Reddit user Layla Betts started posting about Grateful Doe online, leading to the creation of the subreddit Grateful Doe. Someone saw the posts and claimed that the reconstructions looked like like his former roommate. That roommate was named James Callahan. With Callahan's photos beginning to circulate online, his mother came forward and revealed that her son had in fact gone missing 20 years earlier. The police were later able to confirm that Grateful Doe was in fact James Callahan. I think what makes this so scary is when you consider the perspective of the mother. Her son goes off to a concert and just literally never comes home ever. You can't call him, you can't email him, you have absolutely no way of knowing who he was with last. Like, that would have been pure mental agony for years. And as horrible as it sounds, probably the news that he died, that might have been a bit of a relief to her. Even though that's a horrible thought, at the very least, she can get closure and move on with her life. So at least we can thank the internet for that one. Number 2 on this list is the murder of Crystal Theobald. Crystal Theobald was taken from the world far too soon. Her family, obviously extremely distraught, would not rest until justice was served. What Culture writes, after Theobald was shot dead at age 24, her mother and cousin made a fake MySpace profile in her image. They used it to find the identities of a group of local gang members who they believed were involved in her killing, luring them in with Theobald's picture and then catfishing them in the messages. By doing this, they were able to eventually find the owner of the car that had been at the scene of her death, the people in the car, and the events leading up to the fatal shootout. Police weren't too happy with the family's amateur sleuthing, but in the end, they were able to find useful information. With the family's investigation, they were able to find who was responsible for Crystal's death and make some arrests and convictions, giving the family some of the closure that they needed. I can't even begin to comprehend how hard that process would have been for the family searching for their daughter's own killers. Also, it's a little questionable to me that the police weren't too happy with the amateur sleuthing. Like, I don't claim to know anything about investigating, and I will be the first one to admit that I am super ignorant towards the process and procedures in catching a killer. However, you would think that the police should be happy with the family, especially considering the only reason they ended up getting to the bottom of the crime was because of what the family did. I guess the family didn't really care what the police thought about it though, because they needed to find their daughter's killers. Thanks to the power of the internet, they were able to do so. And finally, number 1 on this list is Grandma's Code. This one is super eerie, and even though it comes to a happy ending, still a bit creepy. Jana's grandmother passed away from cancer over 20 years ago. Before she passed, she wrote this encoded note. She left it for her family, but didn't give them a code or anything like that to solve it. Obviously, if the family couldn't solve it for 20 years though, it was a pretty freaking hard puzzle. That's when, enter in, Reddit. Jana posted the encryption on Reddit, and I kid you not, literally less than half an hour goes by and somebody solved it. It turned out that the encryption was actually a code for several prayers. Each letter stood for the first letter in a word in what would amount to a different prayers or messages to God. She didn't say anything crazy or anything like that, just a bunch of prayers to God as her final words. But what's insane and really creepy about this is she was basically talking to us from the grave. If you think about it, she sent this message 20 years ago while she was alive, and we only received it right now. Pretty eerie if you ask me. But there you have it, guys. That is our list of the top 5 terrifying mysteries solved by the internet part 2. Please comment down below what you thought about this list and some other potential crazy internet mysteries that you may know about. Also, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Nicholas Playlog, and I will catch you next time.